can work. If you're not a donor, or even if you are a donor to the classroom, this is another way that you can help, which is to share this. Make sure you tag people. This is a very important conversation, especially for people that have a family history or more about cancer. So if you have had cancer, let me just start my recording. I should start the recording right when I start Facebook. So if this is a very important conversation, if you know of anybody that has cancer, or perhaps maybe is afraid to get cancer, or maybe just wants to know if there is a predisposition for cancer, this is the class for you. Now, make sure that you share it with everybody, spread the good news, tag them, like it, send your love, whatever it is. Let us know that you've been present in the classroom. But right now, we're going to have a wonderful conversation with Sam Needham. And so fasten your seatbelt, because it's time to learn and grow together. And it's time to dance, Sam. Ready to go. Here we go.
The Lillian Mcdermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough and it seems like your best ain't good enough, if you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian Mcdermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian Mcdermott.
Hello, my listening friend and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to live the life of your dreams and embrace a new truth while you're doing it. And so today, I want to challenge all of you to look at prevention as the key, to look at markers in your life, events in your life as key to changing your life. We've heard Dr. Lorraine Day over and over and over again say that unless you change your lifestyle, you are basically embracing disease. So if you've been diagnosed with cancer, if you are have a family history of cancer and you think you might have cancer or might get cancer, or if you know that you're burning the candle at both ends or stressed and you're concerned that you are doing everything that you can to feed cancer by, staying up late and eating lots of sugar and eating lots of fatty foods. Well, if you want to know how this has affected your body, you can use this test with American Metabolic Laboratories for prevention or to see if you're going in the right direction. It's a blood test, a simple blood test that can predict before 10 to 12 years of having symptoms, if you could potentially be at risk for cancer. So today we have the co-founder and president of American Metabolic Laboratories, Sam Needham. And she's going to tell us about this very important test that we could all learn about and then decide whether or not this is something that is making a difference for you. And since that is our sole purpose in life, to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Sam Needham is here to do just that. Welcome, Sam, to the Lillian Mcdermott Radio Show classroom.
Thank you. So great to be with you.
Yes, good dancing, by the way. Very good.
I do better on my feet.
But hey, listen, isn't dancing wonderful to get you out of your head? Very
Absolutely.
Good. People ask me all the time, why do you dance? It's a serious topic. Why are you dancing? Because it is time to just let go and allow life to flow. And so today we're going to allow this flow to go through you, because we need to, this is information that I found very interesting. There are many teachers that come into the classroom that, teach us how to do certain things. But when a teacher comes into my classroom that I highly respect, that says, this is one of the things I do to test the risk. And that's when I reached out to you. This was the second time I reached out to you, but it was the right time, wasn't it, Sam?
Absolutely.
So share a little bit about your background and what led you to learn about the cancer profile test.
Well, I'm a licensed acupuncture physician, colon therapist, and massage therapist. And I started doing the tests on myself about 30 years ago. I didn't have cancer in the family, but when I heard about the test and what they can do, it was like a eureka moment. I'm like, this is like the best thing since sliced bread. You can see inside someone's body without having to cut them open to see what's going on. So it can take, like you mentioned, it can take like 10 to 12 years for a person to develop cancer. So this is seeing it way in advance, which is the most important thing, because if you know something's happening, you can do something about it.
Absolutely. And again, this is, I don't want to use this as a scare tactic, but this tool can be used two ways. It could be used to see what your risk is. And so it's a warning, like a big warning, just like cancer is for many people.
Right.
It's it's like it's time to change your lifestyle. And what does that look like? And then, or if you have cancer and you're choosing to do a certain treatment, it'll tell you if you're doing well or not well. And it can alert you way ahead of time, right? How often can you do this test?
Usually it's recommended probably like if someone's doing some kind of a protocol, like every maybe 3 to 4 months, just to make sure what they're doing is effective, because you don't want to go too long, because if it's not working, you're wasting your time, which is precious, and money. So following up and keeping track is the best thing to do.
Very good. So let's talk about the test, because I've mentioned the test, the cancer profile test through you guys. Are you the only ones that are doing this?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
we actually manufacture the PHI enzyme. So we manufacture it because it's so important. The company we were getting it from, we were the only ones buying it, so it wasn't economical for them to keep making it. So we've been making it ourselves for the last, I don't know, maybe 15 years.
And I'm sure you'll tell us what that all means in a little bit. So I want to encourage all of you, as you know, the classroom is being garbled by algorithms. This is information that some people don't want you to have. So as long as we are together, it is very important that you do your part and tag people. Let us know that you are seated in the classroom in the front row and that you're taking notes by giving us a heart, the thumbs up, or sharing this broadcast. You can do a watch party, whatever it is that you want to do, so that people understand that there are other alternatives for healing and other alternatives. So let's talk about the founder, the person who created this, Dr. Emil Shendel.
Yes, he designed this about 40 years ago. He was looking for an alternative to people being radiated through MRIs, CAT scans, PET scans. And he was actually injecting people with radioactive material before they would have the scans. So one day he went out into the waiting room with his Geiger counter, and the thing was blowing up. And so he's like, for one thing, he didn't want to be exposed to that all the time, but it was just such a high amount. And so said there's got to be a better way. And one of his other concerns was that people were going home, and for at least 2 weeks, you're still radioactive. So you're sleeping next to your spouse, you're holding your children, you have your pet on your lap, whoever it is, whoever your loved one is that's near you is being radiated for the next few weeks. So he says there's got to be a better way, because that's, radiation contributes to cancer. So he did a lot of research, and it took him a while to find this, but he also was a researcher prior to becoming a clinician. So he was brilliant man, one of a kind, and great loss.
Yeah. And what is the concept of this that he came up with? And first of all, what was the thing that you said that was blowing up? Is that the radiation?
A Geiger counter, that's what measures radiation. So he went out in the rating room, and there might be like 10 people out there, and it was just like off the charts. And he's like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah, I used to know a PET scan technician, and she used to wear a ring or something that she had to keep track of how many scans she had done. And is that what you're talking about, the radiation?
Well, it's actually, it's just measuring it at the time. It's not like a meter that's doing cumulative. It was just doing what was happening right then.
Wow. Wow.
So
It's
yes,
amazing.
so
Amazing.
it was off the charts.
It's amazing the things we don't know that we're exposed to, but because we
Absolutely.
can't see it and we're not told about it, we're ignorant to it. So
Right.
we need to be aware that every time we expose ourselves to radiation, it continues with us. And
Right.
so let's talk about this particular process, and why would what is it? And you said it's a blood test
Right. And urine.
and a urine test. So
Right.
let's see how does that work together?
Well, we have, there's 4 tumor markers. There's 2 HCGs, like we just talked about. One is urine, one is serum. And we have PHI, CEA,
Mm-hmm.
DHEA-S, GGTP,
Mm-hmm.
and TSH.
Okay.
So we have 4 tumor markers, and then the other 3 are what we call peripheral tests. They're not tumor markers, but they're indirectly related to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So HCG is the autocrine proliferation factor. So what it does is it forces the cancer cells to divide. So it causes growth, so the proliferation. PHI, phosphohexosisomerase, is the autocrine motility factor. So it causes cancer cells to break away from the primary site and float along in the bloodstream. So I'm sure a lot of people have heard about circulating tumor cells.
Yes.
And that's the main thing that's causing those cancer cells to be circulating in the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
And then CEA is a test that Dr. Shendel put in there because all the doctors knew about CEA, but they weren't familiar with the other tests. So he did it kind of as a drawing factor. But it also plays an important part because we see that elevated in breast cancers and prostate cancers and all kinds of cancers. So it can be elevated even if the other ones are normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then DHEA is dihydroepiandrosterone. It's an adrenal hormone. It's a youth longevity hormone, anti-stress, pro-immunity. So it's a really important hormone. So if that's low, there's things that people can do to bring that up. So everyone with cancer has low DHEA, but not everybody with low DHEA has cancer yet. So yeah, it's a really important factor. TSH is a thyroid stimulating hormone. So if you have low thyroid activity, that means there's less oxygen in the body. So it's really important for the thyroid to be operating properly. And then GGTP, that often it's a liver enzyme. And oftentimes the liver, once there's cancer and there's treatments, especially like chemo, radiation, there's damage to the liver. Mm-hmm. So we have that in there.
So all these combination, because did you mention the urine test? Is that the
HCG is one of the urine? Is the urine?
HCG is the human.
So HCG probably for men or women with no children. HCG is the pregnancy hormone, but we're using it specific at very, very low levels to see as a tumor marker for very early detection. So as few as 12 to 24 active cancer cells in the body, we can get elevations. We can see elevations in our tests.
Interesting. And I was just fascinated when I heard about this. How did Dr. Shendel come up with this combination that this was what they needed to look at to kind of like as a prequel to getting cancer?
Lots and lots of research. Like I mentioned before, he was a researcher, so he knew what to look for. So he had in his mind. And back then, of course, we didn't have Google and all these things to search. He was manually searching through medical records. So he was going to like medical libraries and looking things up. I don't know exactly how he hooked into those things. I know the HCG was first, and then the PHI came after, and then the CEA. So I don't have all that information, but it was a process and it took time, and he adjusted things, and because primarily with pregnancy, almost all HCGs cannot test below 5, but a person can have cancer below 5.
Mhm.
So he had to get those numbers so low, which is like, less than 1 is what, well, we used to be able to measure less than, actually physically less than 1 with a number, but they changed the software in one of our instruments. So now it can be less than 1, but it'll say less than 1. So 1 and up, between 1 and 5, there can be a lot going on, but typical pregnancy tests that people might get, it's not gonna see it until it's up high enough. And then with CAT scans, MRIs, you have to have at least 2 million to 3 million active cancer cells for that to be detected. So if you only have a dozen or 2 dozen, that's why it's years before these other modalities can pick it up.
Now, in the research that you guys have you guys done a test where the person goes, I'm going to ignore this. This is not a real thing. Have you guys done any trials or any tests that says, okay, I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to continue living my life. And then 10, 12 years later, they get tested again and then they have cancer.
Well, we've had people that have done tests with us and they've gone, maybe not necessarily 10 years, but I did speak to someone about 2 weeks ago, and I think the last one was in 2014, and I don't think her results were worse than they were before. But that's why if you keep it on top of it, you can make the changes that you need. You don't have to wait until you got this big thing blowing up. Now, I remember many years ago, we had a lady from California, I think it was Pismo Beach, and she didn't smoke, she didn't drink, she was a vegetarian, she was organic, but she went to India for a retreat, I think as for yoga, or she was a yoga instructor, and she got parasites while she was there. So she was a really healthy woman. Well, when she got back and got the treatment, she wound up after some years she went with lung cancer. She never smoked. She had the healthiest lifestyle, good spiritual and good outlook.
She's
and
well
everything
balanced.
else.
Yeah,
Exactly. And then she and it was such a shame, but she wound up passing from it. But
so did she have the test, and when did she have the test at that point?
She was doing the test with us for a while, and then the doctor that she was using, I mean, he was doing some treatments with her, but I don't know, she probably wasn't just doing the right things.
Oh my
Or not
goodness.
enough. Maybe I don't think the doctor may be not advising her as well as she needed. So
Now, do you work with doctors? You just basically the laboratory, and I know that you guys have lots of different, you don't just do the cancer profile. What are some of the other testing that you do for people?
well, there's sex hormones, there's cardiac risk markers. So of course the sex hormones are the estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cardiac risk markers, HSCRP, homocysteine, LDL direct. Oh gosh, I don't have my list in front of me.
That's okay.
And then there's the PTH for the bones, and cortisols, AM and PM for stress levels, and IGF-1, which is a growth hormone analyte.
So you basically are full function. You do all, or do you specifically deal with? Because I'm looking at you do. Is it basically cancer that you look for, or if anybody wants to?
Well, with the longevity profile, there's other things that can be picked up from that, but the cancer profile is more for that, plus, the TSH and the DHEA and all that. So people can see how well those things are functioning.
Got it. Yeah. And it is so important that we be proactive. So, so as we're looking at this cancer profile, people can do it just as a, like, where am I right now?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some of your clients that have come in. I mean, you said that that's what you did, right?
Yes, that's what I did. Yes. I had nothing going on. We don't have a history of family history of cancer. I mean, my grandmother developed bladder cancer when she was like 83 or 84. So it's not something that I was like, in the front of my mind. I wasn't worried about it, but
yeah.
my sister was going to Dr. Shendel first. And I don't know, I was kind of sluggish and stuff. And I thought my sister was running anemic, and she's had several children. And so she said, why don't you go see Dr. Shendel and have him do some blood work? So that's how my first introduction. So I just did some simple, like a CBC chemistry, which is just some basic stuff. And then I found out about the cancer profile. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. to me, it was like, wow, you can see inside someone's body and you don't have to open them up. I mean, to me, it was just like, wow. So, and then about 4 or 5 years later, I started working at the office. So,
And then now you're a co-founder of the.
yeah, well, yeah, he had another lab before, but when we came together and we did American Metabolic Laboratories. Yes.
Yeah, and this is how much you believe in it. And so how
Oh,
often do you
gosh.
get tested? How often do you get tested?
At least once a year, do the longevity profile, and if things are there's things that are not where they should be, I have to follow up with them. So, and they're not always perfect. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm the healthiest person in the world. There's, we all have stress. We all don't get enough sleep, and so sometimes we have to eat on the go, or it's just our lifestyles are so crazy now with COVID. A lot of people are staying home, but then they're not getting as much exercise as they should either. So there's no perfect situation. We just have to do the best we can. But if I see something in there, it's like, it's a wake up call for anybody. It's like, hey, you're not getting enough sleep. You got to rest more. You got to.
So how does that show in your blood work? How does that show? How does lack of exercise or not getting enough sleep, how does that reflect in the blood work?
Well, it's not going to be as good as it should be. So if, and we all know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And so when you have some abnormals, it just means, hey, kick yourself in the tush, and get back on the right path and get those supplements and get that exercise, get that sleep, your spirituality and everything that we all need.
And that is so true. The spirituality portion, Dr. Lorraine Day is a regular teacher in the classroom, and she says 99% of all disease begins in the heart.
Mm.
And that's where it festers and it goes into the body. And so we need to get the heart just tuned.
Well, our spirit too,
Correct.
Our spirit gets hit first and then the physical.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
So let's take us through the process. Now, you've done this every year for the last 30 years. And when you look at it, you don't get all alerted because the body has a way of healing when you give it what it needs. So how do you use this test? Because I know that you get the results and then you speak with a clinician or a doctor, and they kind of give you some ideas of, what the test means or, what you should do about it. But, do you align yourself with a particular kind of like holistic? I know you're an acupuncture physician, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so that's a natural, more holistic. So do you align yourself with other doctors that are that way to use this as a tool to kind of rebalance your life?
So you're saying on a personal basis?
No, I'm talking about.
Or are you talking about for people who call in or?
Yeah, people call in, they get these tests. How do they get this test? Do they, can they get it through their doctor or can they get it through you? Do they need to have a script? Because I know you have some doctors that work with you.
Well, we have doctors, around the world that are doing our tests. We have people who come through doctors. I mean, we have doctors sending in patients' samples, and we have patients who call us directly. And we have our own staff doctor who can write a prescription, so that's covered. And she also will, she can also go over the results. It's a service that another additional service that she'll provide.
Yes.
She'll explain it to make sure that the patient understands it. She doesn't necessarily tell you what to do or how to do it, but she wants to, we want to make sure, and she wants to make sure that a person will understand their results.
Very good.
Very important. There's no point of doing it if you're not going to understand it. So.
Yeah. Well, full disclosure, I had Dr. Jennifer Grameth was in the classroom, and she and I were talking one time, and we've done juicing together, juice cleanse, juice feast, fast, whatever, together. And during that time, she had mentioned that this is part of her protocol. When somebody comes in, she wants to see where the person is at, especially if she is, concerned, or if there's a concern, or even if there isn't a concern. It's a great way to kind of like keep an eye out. It's not to alarm. So if these markers are up, should somebody say, oh, they have cancer? Or at what point do they know they have cancer? Not 12 years down the road or 10 years down the road.
Well, usually there'll be some kind of symptoms. So, and they may not be sure what it is, so they're doing the tests because they might have a suspicion that, they're not feeling right, or they might have a lump bump discharges, things like that. So they do the tests. Ideally, it would be important personally, my goal is that everybody gets tested, not waiting till they have a problem, because they can see it coming on, and then you can take action. What we don't know can kill us. They say, the saying goes, what you don't know can't hurt you. Well, in this case, what you don't know can kill you. So, and it's it's a big financial, it's an emotional process, it's a financial process. There are people that put second mortgages on their homes to get their chemo radiation treatments, and then they die, and then the family is left with nothing. They don't have their loved one anymore, and they don't have their home. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, I know somebody who did that happened to. So it's a really sad thing, but doing it preventively, so you don't have to wait until there's a problem. You have an idea something's going on, and it's kind of a wake-up call. And we've had so many people who, getting that diagnosis was the best thing, because they changed their life, they changed everything. They've got the energy, they have their life is, they're actually living instead of existing. So sometimes, we need things to shake us up, to get us out of our ruts and our, bad habits and stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for those of you who are watching, or later on podcast listening, or later on watching on BitChute, I want to make sure that you are able to ask questions. Ask any question that you want. If you want to ask a question while we're live, make sure you type in a Q. Write your questions, because you might have some, you might be going through a crisis right now, and you want to know where you're at, where your markers are at. And so I want to, as you know, I check everybody out. And so this time I said to Robert, I would like for you to try this. Robert, are you there? There he is. There's my Robert. Okay. So I asked Robert if he would go through this test. And Robert, you said,
what?
Yes. That's exactly what he said.
I was excited about it. Back several years ago, we heard about a test we could do on our heart. I think it was called a calcium scan or something. And we said, oh, that gives you a kind of an early indication of whether you're headed towards a heart disease. So we went through that and felt good about the results. And then I heard about this test from, like you said, Dr. Mcdermott. And this is something, in my case, I have a huge family history of cancer. I have a sister and a brother that passed from cancer, and my mother and father both had cancer. And I've been having, over the past 10 years, some elevated PSAs, not high elevated, but enough to where I had gone through 2 different biopsies to just in case, and both came out negative. So when we heard about this test, the idea was, as you kind of indicated, Sam, this is a way to kind of get a marker or get a early indication that whether there's any kind of problem or not. So I called down and spoke to, I think her name was Vicky, right? Am I right about that?
Yes, yeah. We have Vicky.
Yeah, and she was great. She was, my first phone call was just learning, and how does it work, and what's involved in it, what do I need to do, what's the interaction, because you all were down in South Florida and we were in Central Florida. And so just trying to learn about it. And then I thought about it, talked to Lillian about it, talked to Dr. Mcdermott, and we decided to try to proceed. So I called Vicky again, and I have to say, I can't say enough good about Vicky. She was holding my hand and very, ready, willing, and able to answer questions and guide me. And so I took some good notes, and it was a good experience, a very good experience. So.
And so is this something that you're glad that you did, with your results? We're not going to discuss your results. We made that decision. But with that, are you glad you did it? Is there a benefit to you having gone through this test that you're making any commitment one way or another?
No, I absolutely would be glad I went through it and would go through it again. Both, Vicky did a nice job of helping me on the front end, And then when we spoke to Dr. Marcello, we talked to her a few days after the results had come in. She was, warm and friendly and educating us. What does it all mean? You hear, Sam was easily able to go through all those letters and they all meant something to her, but that was all new to me.
Right.
What is HCG and PHI and oh my gosh, what does all that mean? So in that case, I think I had read, I had received a brochure in the mail along with the test packet. And there was some information to help me get introduced to the idea. Like there were like, I believe it was it 7 different areas of testing that you were doing?
There's 7 different tests in the cancer profile.
Yeah, and so I was got an initial initiation because of the packet you sent me. But when we met with Dr. Marcello, Lillian and I both there, and we put her on the phone, speakerphone, and she was very helpful to kind of walk us through what it all meant. And as you said, she wasn't there to give us a treatment schedule or anything, but she was there to help us understand the test and go from there. So she was helpful. The packet instructions were good. Everything worked out good. I mean, to be honest, I was confused about, used to going to a lab and having them, take the urine sample, take the blood test. But in this case, because we're at a distance, you sent me the package.
Right.
So, but I was easily able to go to a lab within about 10 minutes from my house. I brought them the script. They were familiar with it. They told me how much it was going to cost. It wasn't a lot. I think it was like $25.
To do the blood
draw. To draw the blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but not only the draw in the blood, but they had to spin it, let it coagulate. And I was there for maybe between 30 and 45 minutes.
Right.
And then they gave it to me because the packet that I originally got from American Metabolics was gave me some pre-addressed envelopes prepaid as well. So what I did was I just kind of left from the lab where they drew my blood, and I put it in a package, and I went right to the post office and put it in the post office, and they gave me a tracking number. I was able to go online, and they told me that you all received it on Monday. I sent it out on Friday. I knew it had to be there by Tuesday if it get that week's results.
Right. So
and everything went timely. I got my results on Friday. The following Tuesday, I was talking to Dr. Marcello. It was really a very good experience. And Dr. Marcello said, this is really an initial marker, and it'd be good to do it again in 3 months or some period of time so that you can kind of test and see where you go from there.
Right. The first time is your baseline. So everything that you do is going to be judged against that first initial test. So, somebody, we've have a number of people who don't have cancer, who do the tests. And so that's like what I did when I was, 30 years ago. I'm not going to say how long I am. But so every time I see results, I can go back to those initial ones and compare. Of course, with time, and people get, with time we all get older, and things kind of don't always, not like I was back in the day. But, so you use that to compare to just going forward. So regardless of somebody doing it preventatively, or if they're doing it because they're doing a protocol and following up that first time, some people, ideally, it would be to do it before there's any procedures, before there's any chemo, radiation, surgery, whatever. It's the best, that's ideal. Actually,
alternative options, like if they decide to change their lifestyle, if they decide to, it doesn't have to be a cancer, protocol, right?
Exactly.
It could be changing their lifestyle, sleeping better, drinking more water.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. No, you're talking about the markers. You go back to that, and then you retest every 3 or so months just to check and see.
Well, if someone's not going to do anything, if they know they're not going to do anything, they're not going to change anything, there's no reason to test again. Don't waste your money because you're not doing anything anyway. But if you are doing something, if you have a doctor who's got you on a protocol, or people, there's a lot of people who make up their own protocols by going through a lot of websites and things and finding things, so they do it on their own. Some people that's okay for, other people need more direction. Some people may, use a nutritionist to help them get things together. Some people may, there's different protocols. So So it doesn't matter what they're doing, even if they're doing chemo and radiation. We have people who are doing those things, and the test at least can show if it's helping or not. And in most cases, chemo and radiation are not necessarily the way to go. Bone cancers, radiation's pretty much the only thing that can help alleviate the pain. But as far as making you healthy again, not necessarily, because
Lifestyle.
those things beat you up really bad. So
yeah, like Dr. Day says, nutrition is 1/10 of the plan. So she talks about other things that we need to do. We need to forgive. We need to have fresh air, exercise, water. Of course, we've talked about nutrition, forgiveness. There's so many different things that keep us from healing. And we think, okay, well, we're doing this one thing, but we're not going to change how much sugar we're taking in. We're not going to change anything. So it's good to see that if you are following a protocol, whatever it is, maybe it's juicing, or maybe it is meditation, or whatever it is, at least you can see, 3 months down the road, what it's looking for. So Robert, I am so grateful that you came on today, and
me too. I got to see him.
Yes, right. So, I mean, what is your opinion of going through this process? Is this something that you're glad that you did?
I am glad I did it. As people that have, I'm not necessarily, even though I have a lot of cancer in my family, I'm not a believer in the cancer coming from my genes. There is a small possibility for that, but that's not what I believe. I believe it's really more about lifestyle and how I deal with stress and how I deal with trauma and all kinds of things that have gone on in my life. So, but if there's any question about the possibility, because this is something, as Sam said, 10 or 12 years ahead of time, right. You're getting some markers, you're getting some indications that there may be an issue that you can, almost everybody has heard the idea, if you can detect it early, you have so many more options, and there's things that you can do about it. And, frankly, my mom and dad did not pass away from cancer. My mom's still alive. My father passed away, but they found their cancer in the very early stages and took action that ultimately turned around their life, so they had a high quality of life as they continued. Right. This test can help people to do that kind of action, which is much less toxic to the body, very likely, and also turn it around before it becomes a full-blown diagnosis. So yeah, I definitely support it and encourage people to take advantage of it.
Thank you.
It's a simple blood draw and urine. There's no invasive procedure like you have with these other modalities. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Robert. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you sharing your experience, and I am looking forward to the next one that you do.
Sure. And thank you, Sam, for you and your organization and the help.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so that was Robert. He just finished sharing his experience. He spoke so highly of Vicki, and I think I've spoken to Vicki a couple of times in the past, because this is a test that I had been alerted about a year ago, and finally we made it happen this year. And so for those of you who are looking at wanting to be preventative, or if you're going through some cancer protocol, and you want to learn where it is that your results are going, if it's going in the right direction or not, you're able to use this test as a barometer, as a way to see if this is working for you or not. Maybe there's other things that you refuse to do and even if you're doing all the wonderful testing, if you're not forgiving, if you're not, getting exercise, if you're not eating well, nothing you do will help you. So it's good. It's a great, barometer to see, okay, well, this is working. This is not working. It's time to do something different. And that's what I loved about this. So it's American Metabolic Laboratories, and although they're in Hollywood, Florida, you can get this test anywhere around the world, right, Sam?
Yes, we have people on every continent around the world. Yes.
That's right. And there are laboratories that you can go to that they just draw your blood. So they work with American Metabolic Laboratories, and you can call, the number you can call is 954-929-48 14. Just let them know Lily sent them. I don't know if we agreed that there would be like a percent. I don't remember. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I don't remember either.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know
We
if there
can-
was a.
Yeah, we can do a discount. We can do at least a 10% discount.
Okay, a 10% discount. Whoa, we're back to the 10%. Just tell them that Lily sent you.
Yes.
And that way they'll know. I think that if they ask for Vicky or Sam, I mean, either way. So 10% off. I apologize. I thought we talked about like having like a percent.
Yeah, I didn't. It's
Sorry,
been a while.
We were talking before that, so
Ah.
bad on me, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to
That's
put you on
okay.
the spot. But they're open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and you're able to talk to them directly. Let them know if you want to get that 10% off that Lily sent you. I mean, I don't get anything from this in the sense that, of course, the test for Robert was comped, but I don't get anything for you doing that. So just go and check it out, because it's so important that we be proactive. Sam, I did a DNA test a while ago, and I got my results of my DNA testing, and I thought it was invaluable. But some people get these marker tests and they start cutting off body parts as if the body part caused them to have cancer.
Right.
But it's not like that. So
No.
we can get warning signs. And so I've promoted thermography in the past. I've promoted other alternative ways to kind of get this, idea of, okay, if you need confirmation that your life needs altering, this is the test for you. And so let's talk a little bit about the differences. I mean, with thermography, they say 10 to 12 years too, that you can tell whether or not there's a hot spot in your body and what to do about it. With this, it also informs you of hot spots as well, right?
It's a little different. And we actually have, we had some people who were designing the thermography cameras, and having women do that. And then they were actually sending their blood to us to do the test, because they wanted to validate what the camera was finding.
Wow.
And so the reason why you get the hot spots with the thermography is because you have blood vessels coming from the tumor for it to grow just like a fetus. So it's feeding itself. So it's the angiogenesis, which is the blood circulation going there, that causes that heat, because there's more blood there, more oxygen and more heat. But the tests, they were using our tests to validate their findings, that what they were seeing too. Because sometimes you can see things and it may not always necessarily, be what they think it might be. So it's not always easy to tell, but the blood doesn't lie.
But how was it? What was the compare and contrast? Did they feel that this was a good apples to apples comparison, or how did it?
Well, some of their patients that had certain things didn't have elevated markers, and then others did. So, we might have had a small percentage that didn't. Maybe there was some kind of other issue that was going on, not necessarily that it was a tumor. But it was good for the validation for them. So they did that for quite a while to make sure what they were doing was, working, and what the findings were. So
yeah, this is a very serious conversation that we're having here, because a lot of people live in fear of cancer. Live in fear. If this is you, if you live in fear of cancer, or if you've received a cancer diagnosis, this is a very important test that you can do that will kind of coach you along the way of whether or not what you're doing, your protocols that you're doing, are helping you or if they're hurting you. And the quicker you find out, the better. And if there is no cancer in your body, you have a marker, so that if things start changing, you're able to kind of regroup and say, this is not working. And if I want to keep my body cancer free, then I need to make some lifestyle changes. And that's what we talk about here in the classroom. This is why it's important. First of all, it's important that you subscribe to whenyouneedafriend.com. And the reason why is that I'm already getting, cancellations, deleted, all these things. We're being heavily censored. And so that is a place where we can always trust that we will be together, so that you can find out where we're at, because, we're grateful for Facebook and YouTube for allowing us to have this platform to get this information out to you. But if it ever changes, just make sure, like me, follow me on all my social media, especially including BitChute. Pretty soon we're looking into other options as well, because just like cancer, we're not going to wait until it happens to make decisions. We want to make sure that we're proactive. So please make sure you subscribe to all my channels. That way you'll hear whatever is happening at one or the other. And so while you're there at whenyouneedafriend.com, and again, subscribe to YouTube and Facebook and like and follow, make sure you check out my affiliate sponsors. And that's like Keep Me Safe Organics and the First Alternative Care Telemedicine, which is $19.99 for the entire household. And that gives you family practice, dermatology, and that's unlimited, and 3 hours a year of behavioral health counseling. And we have the pharmacy in Merritt Island. You mentioned my name, you get 20% off, and they are fabulous. They're phenomenal. Live Longer Medical, making you feel as beautiful on the inside as on the outside. And we have Brain Tap, which rewrites the program in your brain. So if you're stressing a lot, Brain Tap is the product for you. You're able to listen to it, and it'll reframe or entrain the brain, which is absolutely phenomenal. And of course, stuff for pain management, I use microcurrent technology, which is Avasia. So check it out. It's all there in the Shop Now bag. There's other things that you can look at, but also, support them the way that they're supporting the classroom. But one more thing, you can become an enrolled student. Again, I've decided that we don't have, after the fiasco that I had with Nori Nutraceuticals, we just want to make sure that I am not, ever put in that situation. So check out my affiliates, sponsors, and support them the way that they're supporting the classroom. But last but not least, you, an enrolled student, can help out, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, whatever you can afford. Donate. You can go to check the enrollment button. You can help by going to PayPal or be a reoccurring donor. Any way you can help out, time, talent, or treasure, you're welcome. It will help out the classroom a lot. So we want to continue with this process. A lot of people go, well, why should we donate? And it's because if it weren't for the generosity of the people, we wouldn't be on at this point. So today we are talking to Sam Needham, and we are talking about the test. It's called a cancer profile, and it's through American Metabolic Laboratories. And so the number that you call is 954-929-4814. And just let them know that you heard about them through the Lillian Mcdermott radio show Classroom, and that way you get 10% off. What is the cost for this test, so that we know what?
The cancer profile is $604. That does include shipping, handling, and prescription.
That's awesome. And you get 10% off, guys. That's even better than it's so nice to find that generosity. So take advantage of this. And so the website that you can go to if you want to learn more, it's americanmetaboliclaboratory.net. That is americanmetaboliclaboratories.net. And
it's plural, laboratories.
Laboratories. Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yes, laboratories.net. And so check them out. You don't have to be in Miami to do this test. It's really interesting. If you had somebody, Sam, that either you ran into in the grocery store and you happen to stand in line and they just tell you their life story. I don't know if that happens to you. It happens to me quite a bit. Or if you have a family member that is concerned about, maybe a spot on their body, what do you tell them? What do you tell them as far as being proactive?
Well, I recommend doing the tests. Like I say, I've been doing them for 30 years. I've been doing it preventatively, and everyone should do it. It doesn't have to, people shouldn't wait. They should do it ahead of time. And, when you're young too, it's good because you have something to judge it by when we're at our healthiest. Like a longevity profile would be great because you're looking at everything, with the longevity profile, you're looking at your cardiac risk markers, your sex hormones, all the things that, when we're at our healthiest, when we're in our, 20s, that's probably about the time that we're at our healthiest. And then we can see going forward how things are going. But if we're doing it on a regular basis, you're going to see it right away. You don't have to wait until there's a lump, a bump, or discharge, or not feeling right. And, don't have to wait to that point. You see it early enough. And that's why I started doing it, because I want to know way in advance if there's something going on so that I can do something about it. So that's that's the best. And I wanted to mention too, when you're talking about your husband, Robert, was talking about predispositions. There's a lot of women that have BRCA positive, the BRCA2 gene, but that doesn't mean they're going to get cancer.
Correct. 50% of people that get the BRCA gene, that have the BRCA gene, don't get it, but they only talk
Right.
about the ones that do get it.
So if they were doing our tests, instead of panicking and cutting off body parts, you could see when it starts to develop. And then, if you decide, if a woman decides later on that she wants to have things removed, that's one thing. But to do it preventatively or prophylactically, Dr. Shendel thought that Angelina Jolie was insane for doing that. Maybe she was done having children, but that doesn't mean you start chopping body parts off. So
No.
the tests are a right way to see where you're at. And, if you can find out years ahead of time, I mean, you can reverse the process. You don't have to wait.
Yeah.
So
And like Robert had said, we have learned there has been a indoctrination that we believed in the past that cancer was hereditary. Very few cancers are, but the majority, what we inherit is the temperament of our family, how they eat, and the family recipes, and how we sleep and act and think. And I can almost hear Dr. Lorraine Day. She's like my Jiminy Cricket in my brain. So and since 2013, when I learned this new truth, I started thinking, wow, I can control what happens in my life by the way I behave. And trusting in God. I mean, something as simple as trusting in God, but you can trust in God, but if you're not doing the right things, it doesn't matter. You're still hurting yourselves.
right.
And so, to have a test like this is invaluable. It is invaluable for all of you. And so, as being responsible and being proactive, I want to encourage you to look more into this, because it'll give you your marker, and it's not to alarm you. This is so that you can see what's going on in your life. Is this something that what you're doing is working for you? Because if somebody has an abnormal test results, what do you suggest at that point?
Well, it's going to depend on how bad the results are, but there's people, for them to find some kind of program protocol of their choosing. Of course, lifestyle changes, excuse me, supplements, exercise, sleep, stress management, all the things that we know we should do. So that's what we tell people. That's what I tell people. I mean, as an acupuncturist, I can say certain things. I don't, even though I know the results and I know what the tests are about, I'm not licensed to discuss them with people, but, I know generalities, but I can't say specifically to somebody, what things are.
Yeah.
But they need to find someone to work with, because you can't, not everybody can do it, do it on their own.
And I love that you guys provide a doctor that will go over the results, and it's very affordable. You said the $604 is including the doctor?
No,
Not
that's for the
including the doctor.
prescription, but for the consult, it's $30 for the consult. to go
Consult
over
for
the results.
$30. That's less than a
To go over
copay.
the results, right? So go
Yeah.
over the results for the patient. Yes.
Yeah, and she was lovely.
Yes.
I sat in the call with Robert, and it was just, it's always scary to want to learn about these things, but learning about something with truth as opposed to fear
Right.
is two totally different things. So I want to encourage you not only to call 954 929-4814. You can ask for Sam or whoever is there. Just let them know Lily McDermott sent you. Just tell them Lily, the classroom sent you, and get 10% off of your, that way they know that this is something that you are curious about and interested about. If you have any questions, you can ask either today or you can ask in the future by calling that number. Again, the number is 954-929-4814. And it's called American Metabolic Laboratories. And you can go to americanmetaboliclaboratories.net to learn more. I am so grateful to you, Sam, for sharing this information and for having the passion. You went through 40 years ago, you had the test done, or 30 years ago, and here you are now promoting it with people to help save lives. And so I'm so grateful to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. And for those of you who want to learn more, you know what to do. The information will be below once we publish this so that you can make your decision on how you're going to take your health back. Please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. This is Lillian Mcdermott and Sam Needham wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. That's the best ever. Yay, good job. Good job. We're going to continue on for a second. Here we go.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian Mcdermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, so normally we have like a little teacher's pet corner, and tonight we have some time limitations on our end. And so I just wanted to quickly, can you share a story, not giving any names or anything like that, of a time that the person's markers, even though they didn't have symptoms, the markers were high enough where they were able to detect cancer way ahead of time?
Yes, actually, Dr. Shendel's brother, he had elevations 10 years before he was diagnosed.
Wow.
But he didn't do anything about it. So yeah, that was part of the presentations when we go to conferences. He would present and he would always show his brother's results so that people can actually see that, yes, it does tell way in advance. And even for that lady that went to India, she had elevations before she was diagnosed as well. So, I mean, it happens, if people do it preventatively, that's the whole idea, is to do it like that. So,
well, this is what I don't understand. How somebody would have these markers and they have this opportunity, a second chance to change their life, do something different, and they choose not to. What is going on?
Well, it was his brother, so
I know.
They don't necessarily, and they had an interesting relationship, but Dr. Shendel did so much, sent all kinds of supplements to him, and did all kinds of things, and I don't think he followed through. He was, he loved God, Carl, his brother, but like Dr. Shendel told his brother, he said, God will do it with you, but he's not going to do it for you. And so, I was going to mention that during the talk, but that's the thing, to take responsibility, and patients are calling us all the time. They're so glad that they have a place they can go themselves to get results, because we had a lady with breast cancer, and the doctor would write her like a prescription maybe once a year, but the problem was that she wanted to do it like, say, every 3 or 4 months. So she was so glad. She said, I'm so glad that I can do this myself. I don't have to get permission from my doctor to be able to do it, because a lot of them don't understand or don't care, or they don't have a vested interest in the patient. The patient, they do. That's their life and their family. So they can people, like you're telling people, take responsibility. Having a lab like us allows people to be able to do that.
And you're the only one in the world that is doing this. This is amazing that your information isn't on every single show out there. Every single doctor's gives it as an option. Even though physically you might look good, but the blood test is not telling you otherwise. And so it's time to really look beyond the physical, because our bodies warn us. We have little whispers, we have 2x4s hit us across the head. And even with traditional testing,
It misses it.
It misses it.
Right. And even the breast cancer marker, it's maybe 60% accurate. So, when people are following up with testing with the traditional doctors, the tests that they may be doing on these patients are not the right ones. They're not specific. So that's a problem too. So people are saying, oh yeah, I'm doing well, but okay, well then do our tests and let's see what's really happening. What's really going on, because you may not be doing as well as you think.
And a question that I wanted to ask while we were, this is all going to be aired on Facebook and YouTube, but the podcasters are not going to get this part. But they can always come and watch this. So this is all being recorded right now.
Okay.
Yes.
I better behave.
Yeah. Now's not the time to dance like nobody's watching. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is, there are many tests that we take that we do that have false positives and false negatives.
Right.
And so let's talk about the false positive, because I was very impressed with your rates of true tests.
Right. Well, the only way you can say something is accurate is if you have like a biopsied tumor. So like we can say, okay, somebody's got breast cancer, but if the only way to compare it is against somebody who's had breast cancer, who's been diagnosed, and you have elevated markers. So, people talk about false positives, but Dr. Shendel, I know he didn't really see it that way, because these tests can detect so far in advance. If it's 10 to 12 years, you're getting a signal now 10 years before that you would be diagnosed. How can that be a false positive?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just like you're getting an earlier warning. You're not waiting until you have, 20 billion cancer cells to form this tumor. You're getting it way in advance. So like I said, a dozen to 2 dozen active cancer cells can put enough of those products into the bloodstream and then the urine for our instruments to detect them. So it's really, really important.
Yeah, but what's most important is what we do with the information. The information is not there to scare you. It's there to say, wow, if I created this, if this is happening in my body, and my body has already started forming the eye of the storm, the eye of the storm hasn't formed yet, but like a meteorologist knows
the clouds are accumulating.
There's something accumulating. What do you call that? Robert is my chief meteorologist. So there's a depression or whatever is happening. But isn't it true? They say that cancer is in your body for 10 years prior to being diagnosed. Wouldn't you want to know the prior to being diagnosed?
Right.
And so I am just so excited to have been able to bring this information to our listening and viewing friends so that they can make a decision on their own. This is not for me to scare you or anything to that effect, but isn't it wonderful that we know with the past traumas in our lives that there's something missing, there's something wrong. And that something wrong can be nipped right when you do something like this. So don't prolong it. As a certified life coach, I talk about, how people don't want to deal with past traumas, but they drag it with them like a 50, 100-pound sack of potatoes. They're just dragging it everywhere they go. But they're not going to do anything about it. They're just going to drag it everywhere they go. That dragging and that process is always going to create some form of manifestation of illness. And we've talked about German new medicine. We've talked about recall healing. We've talked about all these things that you can do to make sure that the body goes, okay, God, now I can release it. Now that there's been forgiveness, now I can release it and let it go. Just let it go. And November 13th, 14th, and 15th, I am doing, and it's right now, go to whenyounneedafriend.com. You can learn more about the event that we're going to be having called I Am the Solution. And it's for anybody who wants to just not look at the answers. You want to be a part of the solution, be the solution. And so that workshop, that weekend workshop, go check it out at whenyounneedafriend.com. We've already started promoting it, and hopefully you will be a part of that, because that is part of, if you get something, the lab work markers, because it's not a diagnosis, right? This is not a diagnosis. This is markers. Your body, you are hearing it, but now you're seeing it. And that is what is life-changing for many people. Don't wait until you have stage 4 of whatever it is. It doesn't matter, stage 0 or stage 4, your body can return to health, but you've got to change your lifestyle, spirit, mind, and body. And Sam, I just want to say how grateful I am to you that you've had this passion for over 30 years or 30 years.
Right.
And thank you for continuing Dr. Shendel's work, because he's no longer with us, but you're carrying the baton. So thank you.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are watching, if you want to learn more information, you can reach out to me at lily@whenyounneedafriend.com, or send me a message, private message, because people don't want to learn. They don't want to hear. They just want to stick their head in the sand. But I think this is a way to say, okay, I am going to work with my body and figure out what can I do to return it back to health. And so I hope that you will check it out. Go to American Metabolic Laboratories.net, and let's continue to heal and take your life back. So until tomorrow, we'll see each other again. Thank you again, Sam. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'll talk to you soon. Say goodbye, Sam.